Raza, thank you for coming to talk about the MVNO licensing process in Saudi Arabia. So starting off, what is an MVNO?
An MVNO is a mobile virtual network operator. So it's an operator that doesn't have a license as an MNO, so it doesn't have its own network, it doesn't have its own allocation of spectrum, but it does have its own end users, and it does that by essentially using the spectrum of an MNO, and it markets services through that relationship.
And in Europe and in Australia and New Zealand, this is fairly common. Is this new in the Middle East?
It's relatively new in the Middle East. It's the first time that we're seeing an MVNO consultation in Saudi. There has been an MVNO in Oman, which is part of the GCC, but Saudi is a very unique market within the GCC, so it is relatively new for this part of the world.
So what sort of opportunities are there likely to be for an MVNO? Because the Saudi market has already got 3 operators, it's quite crowded. What is the exciting thing about an MVNO?
You're right in that there is quite a lot of competition already from an end user's perspective, but it's exciting from a multiple number of perspectives. Firstly, the MNOs have spent quite a lot of money rolling out their infrastructure, so this is an opportunity to essentially claw back some of the money that they've spent, licensing fees and also the infrastructure costs. And a new entrant can come in through partnering with an MNO and offer increased competition, which is also the primary objective of the regulator in Saudi, which is CITC.
So is it likely that an MVNO would be likely to aim towards a particular market designation, like, for example, a particular community?
That's what we've seen with the MVNOs that have launched in Oman. So, for example, Friendly has targeted the blue-collar workforce, and essentially I think it's going to be very important for the MVNOs who partner with the MNOs to make sure that their segmentation strategies are aligned to ensure that they do target the right kind of groups and make the most money and offer their services accordingly.
So let's talk about the licensing process. Where are we right now?
There was a consultation paper that was published by CITC, and this is a very new way of operating for regulators in the Middle East. It's not common for there to be consultation processes and seeking soundings from various stakeholders. So we've reviewed this, and it does set out a timeline for MNOs and MVNOs to get together and try and agree various models and terms. They're talking about issuing 3 MVNO licenses during 2012. I think that's a bit ambitious, but that is the intention as stated in the consultation paper.
And we're hearing that as many as 13 or 14 different operators or different MVNO potential operators have expressed an interest. Is it possible for the existing operators to also create their own MVNO?
Well, I think very few have actually publicly said that they are going to participate in the process. The first step, I suspect, will be that potential MVNOs will be speaking behind closed doors with the MNOs. Obviously, there isn't very much publicly available information about that. In answer to your question about the MNOs being participants in the MVNO process, you're right. They can actually participate as an MVNO because the consultation paper says that the MVNOs should not have a majority shareholding through MNOs, but MNOs can have a minority shareholding in the MVNO.
Okay. And in terms of the negotiations that are currently going on and that will go on once the process is finished, what do you see as the sticking points that are likely?
I think there are a whole host of potential sticking points. The sticking points that we would ordinarily see between an MVNO and MNO during negotiations will revolve around pricing, branding, the kind of, again, segmentation between their respective customer targets, and also term, exclusivity, and all the usual issues that are at the heart of the commercial deal. But I think in Saudi it will be particularly challenging because certainly from the MNO's perspective and from the regulator's perspective, it will take a real sea change in the way that they approach negotiations, because they will still see the MVNO essentially reselling services off the network that they have invested in and provided.
And finally, I'm conscious the process is still ongoing. When do we think we might see an MVNO in Saudi Arabia?
The consultation paper says that there will be 3 licenses issued during the year. I don't think that's likely. I think the process is going to be particularly complex, and the role of CITC is also a big issue within that process. But I do think we will hear announcements during 2013 about progress that's been made between respective parties and stakeholders in the programme.
Thank you.